Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features X-Men number 48, cover dated January 1996. And the cover is by Andy Kubert, inked by Cam Smith, and it features two different versions of Bishop. It is Bishop from the Age of Apocalypse, standing back to back with his Prime Reality self in this new designed costume for him too, and his new haircut as well, and the cover caption Divided Minds. So Bishop has the unique experience of having lived through the Age of Apocalypse and aged 20 years in the period, and then to have his psyche return to his younger body in the present. So he was doubly time displaced, and this has led to some mental confusion on his part with the return to the Prime Reality, and that gets further explored in this particular issue. So let's open this one up to the splash page, and we can see instantly that it's not Andy Kubert on art. When I turn the page, we'll see who is the artist, guest artist on this issue. And the story itself is framed by a card game that takes place in Soho, Manhattan. And we can see here that a couple of the players include Beast and Cannonball. But Cannonball, who's the newest X-Man, is not actually playing the game at this point, and doesn't seem to, but has actually given away Beast's hand, much to his annoyance. And let's turn the page and we'll get our creative team revealed here. So the title of the story is 5-Card Studs. And the creative team is Scott Lobdell writer, so Fabian Nicieza has left the title, and we still don't have a replacement for him, a permanent replacement for him just yet. It will turn out to be Mark Waid. Luke Ross, guest penciler, Andy Lanning, guest inker. So Luke Ross, a young artist at this point, clearly his style influenced by Jim Lee, but also influenced by J. Scott Campbell and his run on Gen 13, and you see it most particularly in the way that he draws Cannonball's eyes, this kind of almond shaped eyes with these eyelashes indicated as well, very much like J. Scott Campbell style. Other features of Cannonball's face there as well, the nose, the mouth, the indication of the cheeks and jawline, also very J. Scott Campbell-esque as well. So a mixture, I would say then that the primary influences on Luke Ross's style at this point would be Jim Lee and J. Scott Campbell, and a touch of Art Adams as well. So the rest of the creative team, Steve Buccellato and Electric Crayon on the digital colors, Richard Starkings and Comic Craft on the digital lettering. So so there's a card game in progress, and what's interesting too is that there is a guest appearance by The Thing, founding member of the Fantastic Four and renowned for his enjoyment of a game of poker that's long-standing in the Marvel Universe too. And there he is smoking his big fat cigar as well, because this is in advance of Joe Quesada's editorial diktat that no Marvel superhero be a smoker, something that is a change upcoming in the next 5 years, or 5 years from now, but not at this point. So the whole room, you can see all of the smoke there from The Thing cigar filling up the room. And it's interesting where they are. It is a building a private loft owned by Warren Worthington III, aka Archangel, in Soho, and he's given over the building to the friends here for their game, for their night out in the big city. And at this point, The Thing is getting up and he's about to leave the game here. Oh yeah, so who are our players? So we've got Gambit, we've got Cannonball there, who seems to be gormless about the rules of poker, but that will turn out not to be 100% the case. We've got Storm here, Bobby Drake, Iceman, and already, as I said, Ben Grimm, The Thing. So Beast very upset about his hand having been blown by gormless Cannonball, and now The Thing is getting up. He's got other places to be. That's a pretty good drawing of The Thing there, putting on his coat, wearing those moccasins there as well. Interesting kind of design sense. Even look at the detail of the fly of his trousers kind of being revealed by just the girth of his waist, kind of just pulling that a little bit to the side. That's an interesting little detail there. So I think Luke Ross doing a good job on the drapery and selling the believability of the Thing wearing civilian clothes there. So anyway, he says that's the problem with used mutants as he gets up to leave. He's basically saying that the Beast should give Cannonball a break. You're always taking things much too serious. Now, if he was a member of the Fantastic Four like yours truly, I'd have gone and taken him under my orange wing and taught him how to play the game instead of ragging on the toothpick. As it is, I got to go save the universe or something, so I'm out of here. Off he goes. But there's nothing specific he's going to do, so it's just an interesting little guest appearance, not even advertised on the cover. Pretty cool. I like that. So anyway, the Thing heads away, and now Cannonball is going to be dealt into the game. On behalf of myself, Aurora, Remy, and Robert, Mr. Guthrie, welcome to the game. Deal, says Beast as he hands over the deck of cards. And here we get a little bit of comedy, physical comedy, where Cannonball makes a mess of dealing the cards. They go out, they go everywhere, on top of the table, under the table. But this distraction gives Gambit an opportunity to have a small little heart-to-heart with Storm. So he says, Stormy, which has always been his nickname since they first encountered each other all the way back in issues 266 and 267 of Uncanny X-Men. Now that we seem to got a moment to ourselves, what's the scoop? Don't go telling me you're still upset with everyone's favourite Cajun after my nickel's worth of pop psychology with Sabretooth, a reference to Uncanny X-Men 326. Not especially after it turns out he was faking his condition by that point. And Storm responds and says, I was not elated, no. But as you say, Remy, in light of how things resolve themselves, I admit, however, my mind and heart are elsewhere this evening. So we get a transition now with Elizabeth, who's recovering from her wounds, the wounds that she received when Sabretooth escaped from the mansion, but also as well as with Bishop, who is currently confronting demons from a past which may not even be his own. So we get this full page image of the Age of Apocalypse Bishop, who, remember, was in his 40s. He aged in real time for 20 years in that timeline. And this is a kind of like a memory / nightmare that he's having here. And he is speaking to someone, it'll turn out to be Jean Grey, at Harry's hideaway. And he says, when I close my eyes at night, indeed during the day as well, I see it. I see myself yet. And another. I'm older. I'm being hunted. I can't see my pursuer, but I know he's out there. Then what, Bishop? Asks Jean. Get past these ads. And he says, I break. I run as hard. I run as if a horde of M-plates is descending upon me. And I remember feeling confused by that thought. M-plates are parasitic mutants from the future where I was raised, before I travelled back in time and joined the X-Men. But that is not a memory of my life as an officer in the peacekeeping force of the XSE. So this is Lobdell, who's the writer on Generation X, working in a reference to M-Plate there, the villain of that particular book, and also implying that something of M-Plate survived into Bishop's dystopian future. I'm not in charge here, he continues to say to Jean. I'm a prisoner trying desperately to escape a death sentence. By whose authority, Bishop, she asks. Who wants you killed? I can't say, Jean. No matter how many times I relive this moment, if I ever lived it at all, I can't make out his face. So who is this? It's a figure from the Age of Apocalypse with those little energy lines going around his hand. It could be Havoc, but I don't think it is. I think it's implying Mr. Sinister from the Age of Apocalypse timeline. And we'll see why that is a little later in this particular issue. In any case, here we are in the present. Bishop's at Harry's hideaway, Salem Center, just down the road from Professor X's mansion, which is now the kind of social hangout for the X-Men. And this is the conversation that's going on between him, Jean, and Cyclops is present as well. He says, "It's as if my mind will only let me remember so much before it." And Cyclops shuts down. "Yes, Scott," as if some mental circuit breaker kicks in. And Jean says, "The brain is a very fragile instrument, Bishop, with many natural defenses. It may be trying to protect itself protect you from itself." As we've said, Jean and I may have had similar experiences. That was in the Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix, where their psyches went 1,000 years into the future in order to give them the opportunity to raise young Nathan Christopher Summers, aka Cable. You can't expect to remember decades-long amounts of memories compressed in your head all at once, if ever. And Bishop says, "The thought of being cut off from a huge portion of my life is disheartening, especially in light of the fact I was displaced in time even before the events in Israel. How did you two manage to overcome your feelings of disorientation?" And they make the point, partially no doubt through the psionic rapport we share, but also by doing just what you're doing now, by talking it through with people who care. And then this is a really interesting and unexpected callback to a little moment from Uncanny X-Men 299, where the server at Harry's hideaway had a little flirtation with Bishop and vice versa. So she tells him that their table is ready, their booth is ready. "Thank you." And she says, "Pam, I'm hurt. You asked me my name last time you were here. Bishop, isn't it?" "Indeed." So is this setting up possibility of a romantic relationship for him? Turn the page though, and it's a big surprise to see that Harry's hideaway is being monitored by no less than Dark Beast. So here he is. He's another refugee from the Age of Apocalypse reality. He jumped into the Macran crystal just at the point that it was going to be exploded, and managed somehow or other to travel to the prime reality. And here he says in his villain's monologue, that's certainly one way of looking at it. I prefer the more succinct term destiny. From the moment I found myself ignominiously indisposed in this reality some 20 years ago, I've been eager for our paths to cross, Bishop. Unfortunately for you, this encounter can only end in your death. And that's basically where he'll remain in respect of Bishop towards the end of this particular issue. Bishop's got to die, but why? That's what will be revealed. In another time and place, he was called a beast. He always thought the term derogatory. His preference is now to be called by his surname, McCoy. So that's how Dark Beast is known into the future in his time in the prime reality. But someone else made their way to the prime reality, also via the Macran crystal. And it's this guy here with a very distinctive, wavy, gloopy speech balloon. And it turns out to be none other than Sugar Man. So top of his head there in deep silhouette. And he's eaten the guards that Beast had posted outside his laboratory. So Beast asks Sugarman, "How did you find me? How did you get in here? And what did you do with my guards?" So he's eaten them, and he says, "We made a deal, McCoy. Share all info you've been holding out," as he touches the screen with Bishop on it. So now they have a big argument here, and it reveals that when they first emerged in the prime reality, they were they were babbling idiots, he says. "You and me are not the babbling idiots we were when we first fell through the Macran crystal 2 decades ago." So there was a period of adjustment for both of them before they immersed themselves and ensconced themselves in the new reality, the alternative reality from their perspective. So now they end up in this Mexican standoff here. Or not Mexican standoff, but standoff rather. Mexican standoff, you've got to have more than 2. So just a standoff. And then the scene switches to the Xavier Institute. And Professor X is monitoring Psylocke's condition. So she is in dire straits after having her guts ripped into by Sabretooth. But the professor is marveling at the fact that Sabretooth managed to critically wound Psylocke without killing her, almost as if he were trying to say something, because the professor told Sabretooth that he was irremediable, and so maybe there's a little hint here that Sabretooth is not a mindless psychotic but is in control and is sending a message to Professor X that maybe he's not irremediable. In any case, the professor handed him over to X Factor for custody, the custody of X Factor. You and I, well, that was his final decision regarding Sabretooth before Sabretooth escaped from the mansion. And then Psylocke basically tells him that he looks so tired and maybe he should take care of himself. And the professor responds to that as Psylocke falls asleep again. He should be touched, broken, battered, and bruised. She reached out to comfort him. He acknowledges it, but he doesn't feel it. By accident or by design, he doesn't feel anything. So there's been hints of the professor being of a much grimmer disposition since the return to the prime reality. And deep in his heart, he can't help wondering if he'll ever feel anything ever again. So how is it that his heart has become hardened? Well, there's going to be a big revelation regarding what's going on with Professor X coming up in subsequent months and issues of the X-Men comics. Then we're back to the game, which runs all the way through this issue and to the end of it. And now it's revealed that Cannonball was faking, that he hadn't a clue about the rules of poker. And Beast realizes, lady and gentlemen, we've been snookered, duped, bamboozled. We've had the wool pulled over our eyes. We've been hooked, lined, sunk, folded, spindled, and otherwise mutilated by one of our own. In the parlance of the game, we've been hustled. So Sam here gathering up all the chips and basically still playing dumb. What makes you say that? What makes you say that? Admit it, Sam, you've played this game before. So then he comes out and he admits it and he says, sure, maybe once or twice. What else was my 9 brothers and sisters supposed to do during those long Kentucky winters? So now Gambit, shuffling the deck there, says, I guess it comes down to you and me, mon ami. Yeah, partner, I reckon it does. So a much more serious look on Sam's face now. So I like that little twist. And Storm goes off to the kitchen. Iceman follows her in, and we get a little heart-to-heart between them. And this is something that Lobdell has been seeding for Iceman for a long time now, ever since his body was taken over by the White Queen in Uncanny X-Men 314. So he says to Storm, he says, I was wondering if you could tutor me. Because, she asks, because out of everyone on the team, you and I have similar element-wielding powers. Exactly, she says, and the answer is yes. I promise I'll take it seriously, he says. Yes, you will, starting tomorrow at 7 a.m. Until then, let's go watch Remy go down in defeat. So now, Iceman has a mentor in Storm, and because she's mistress of the elements, she's going to mentor him in his mastery of the element of water. So that's going to be interesting into the future. And then we switch back to Beast's lair, and we've got Sugarman raiding the fridge there, and basically some back and forth about Apocalypse and their old reality. And basically Beast makes the point that Bishop shouldn't be here, not in this time or place. As near as I can tell, Bishop is a chronal anomaly, apparently from a distant future. If that is true, it follows that the reason he doesn't have a counterpart here is because he's the same person who existed in our reality. So Dark Beast putting it together, where he spent 20 years until he somehow convinced our X-Men to reroute and adjust the time stream, which resulted in this reality and probably allowed him to reaccess his original body, since technically nothing actually happened to him in the first place. Surely even you can understand the significance of this, but Sugarman's an idiot, and so he says that he can't, and Beast basically draws the conclusion. It means that he has information in his head regarding you and me, information that would be of interest to a certain someone. And here it comes. You mean him? Yes, Sinister. So Mr. Sinister, and that's my conjecture about who it is that Bishop is seeing in his memory/nightmare fantasy. Mr. Sinister. The Age of Apocalypse, Mr. Sinister, that is. And then back to the game, and this is the end of the issue. So, is Gambit going to beat Cannonball? And so there's some bluffing going on between the pair regarding what hands they have, and then Gambit basically makes the point, you got the bluffing down good, Sam, but anybody can pretend to be something they ain't. And of course this is all very suggestive when it comes to Gambit, and the whole question that's hovering over him again as regards whether he may be the ex-trader that Bishop discovered back in Uncanny X-Men 287. That's been a long plot that's been dangling. Pretend they got something they don't, but that's only half the game. Really, O Ancient One, asks Cannonball, and what's the other half? The ability to distract. Sometimes it's more important than bluffing. And that sparks something for Beast, where he has an epiphany, a realization regarding the legacy virus of all things. So he falls off his perch onto his backside, and he realizes, the whole time I thought we were ferreting out the truth about Strife's legacy virus, we were actually chasing our collective tails. He was indicating one direction, and in our zeal and ignorance, we acquiesced accordingly. Now to see what we shall really see. So Beast is back to the laboratory to figure out the legacy virus once and for all, and then back to the game. So Sam puts down his bet, and Gambit here says a man ought never bet more than he's willing to lose. But we have to switch back to Dark Beast's lair. He's got this strange mutated creature here that he's developed with his command of genetics, and he explains that the creature filters in every thought, every image from all my constructs, translating ambient psionic thought waves into digital resource data. So is that why he has an eye on Harry's hideaway bar? Does he have a construct operating in the bar? Could it be Pam? Then Sugarman here says, by the way, I like the spotting of blacks on his face. It's interestingly done. Show off, he says. You still didn't answer my question. What do we do to make sure our mutual survival is ensured? What do we do about Bishop? This just goes back to what Beast said earlier in his monologue. He says, simplicity, obesity. Because we agree the potential accessing of his memories by the X-Men may threaten everything we've planned over the years, the only true question is, who will be the one to do the dirty deed? Who will kill Bishop before Sinister realizes he's the key to the mysteries which have plagued Essex for the past 2 decades? So Essex is the revealed name of Mr. Sinister at this point. Change of scene. Back to the card game. This is the end of the issue. And Gambit says to Sam, he says, I'm thawing here already. It's time to show your hand, Sam, says Storm. So we get this borderless panel here. Gambit asks him if he's folding. No. So out he goes with his hand. And then Gambit puts down a hand that is about to win. He says, never rush. Take your time. Don't never let anybody rush you. And never ever show all your cards at once. So always there is this question of the subtext of what Gambit is saying, and as to whether he hasn't shown all his cards at once in respect of whether he's going to be a traitor to the X-Men or not. And then he lets fly with the final card, saying, guessing all the excitement, I wasn't paying attention. My mutant power to charge things must have kicked in. Sorry, mes amis. And Cannonball is disgusted. He says, yeah, and Iceman goads him, say it, you cheater. You done that on purpose. Kid, the pot is yours, I lost. Cheater? The best you could have come up was cheater, says Iceman. And then Storm picks up the card and it turns out to be the Ace of Hearts. By the goddess, I do not understand. She thinks to herself, the card that Remy threw? Why did he not want to win? And it's kind of an odd ending to the issue. It's kind of abrupt. It feels abrupt. Why did he lose? Why did he throw the game like that when he had won? What does it mean? What does it portend regarding Gambit, his bona fides? Is he going to betray the X-Men? Remember, we had something set up in a recent issue of the title, the special issue featuring Gambit and Rogue in Seattle, where Mr. Sinister turned up at the end and basically implied that Gambit had something that he had to do, was obliged to do for Mr. Sinister. So all of this is in the background here of this particular card game and this particular issue, and the lead up to the coming Onslaught crossover event. So there's no letters in this particular issue. That is it. I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on X-Men number 48. Let me know your thoughts about this issue in the comment section to the video. If you enjoyed my review, please like the video on YouTube. It really does help the channel. And stay tuned for more content like this.